Before the first crack appears, the volcano is silent. It stands alone on a black plain, its slopes smooth with old ash, its crater sealed by a skin of dark stone. Nothing rises from it, no smoke, no flame, no tremor. Only a thin ring of red warmth glows beneath the rim, so faint that it seems less like fire than a pulse. For centuries, the mountain has been growing inward. Beneath the crater, a chamber has slowly filled with folded tissue. Petals made of basalt fiber press against one another in the dark. Veins of molten mineral run through them at their center. A closed biological cup holds spores that have never touched air. The volcano is not sleeping, it is ripening. At dawn, the first seam opens. A red line circles the crater like a wound drawn by heat. Ash slides down the slope. The stone skin flexes. Deep inside the mountain, the hidden flower shifts for the first time in hundreds of years. There is no explosion yet, only pressure. A second seam appears, then a third. The crater rim breaks into segments, each one lifting a little, as if the mountain is learning how to unfold. They have lived their entire lives beneath this dormant cone, grazing on mineral dust, raising their young in the warm cracks at its base. They know the signs before the sky does. The mountain is about to bloom. The first petal rises just after the sun clears the horizon. It is enormous, a black slab of volcanic rock lined inside with glowing orange tissue. It lifts from the crater and bends outward, showering ash down the slope beneath it. Another petal pushes free. Then another petal pushes free. The crater opens in a slow circle, revealing a flower chamber larger than a valley. The glow inside is not lava, it is reproductive heat. The buried root system has stored it for centuries, pulling warmth from deep stone, minerals from old magma, and water from hidden aquifers. Around every dormant volcano on this world, the same buried organism waits, feeding slowly beneath the crust. The volcano is only the surface bud. When it opens, the entire mountain becomes a flower. The inner chamber brightens. Thousands of spore sacs swell along the petal walls, each one clear as glass and filled with red-gold dust. The sacs beat in sequence, pushing light from the center of the bloom outward to the rim. The rhythm moves like breathing, for a few minutes. The volcano is beautiful beyond survival. A plain glows. Ash animals lift their heads, thin mineral plants open from the cracks, their leaves trembling in the warm air. The sky above the crater darkens as heat pulls cloud and dust into a rising column. Then the first spore sac bursts. A stream of glowing particles rises from the chamber. It does not shoot like flame, it lifts like pollen, carried by hot ash, spiraling upward through the crater's breath. More sacs open. The column thickens. Red, orange, and pale gold spores climb into the sky until the volcano wears a crown of living smoke. The bloom has begun. Each carries a fragment of the buried root's chemistry, instructions for finding heat, stone, moisture, and pressure. Most will die in the air. Some will fall on cold plains and never wake. A few will enter the cracks of young mountains and begin the century-long work of becoming another hidden root. The mountain pays for this release with its body. As the spores rise, the petals darken at the edges, their glowing tissues begin to drain. Mineral veins that took centuries to fill empty in minutes. The chamber that held the flower starts to cave inward. Still, the bloom continues. The ash column spreads across the sky, carrying spores over the black plain. They fall onto glassy ridges, old lava fields, mineral lakes, and the backs of slow-moving ash grazers. Some spores cling to warm skin and glow briefly before drifting away, others settle into cracks and vanish. The animals do not flee far, they wait at the outer edge of the falling ash, opening vents along their backs. The spores coat them like luminous dust. For these creatures, the bloom is both danger and feast. They feed on the sterile spores that fail to root, licking gold from stone and skin. Their young will grow faster for one season, warmed by the last gift of the mountain. Above them, the volcano opens wider. Its petals now stand like broken walls around the crater. From inside, new structures unfold, thinner filaments, pale and flexible, swaying in the heat. These are the final stamens of the volcanic flower. They rise through the spore cloud, shaking loose the smallest particles, the ones light enough to enter the upper winds. The sky becomes a moving field of embers. On this planet, one blooming volcano can seed a continent. But it can bloom only once. Root organism beneath the mountain has spent everything. It has emptied its heat stores, mineral chambers, water pockets, and chemical memory into this single reproductive act. The petals will never close. The chamber will never refill. The volcano that protected the flower must now collapse around the absence it created. The first cave-in begins on the eastern slope. A long crack races downward from the crater to the plain. The flank drops with a soft roar, not like an explosion but like a body giving up its shape. Ash rolls outward in a gray wave. The feeding animals retreat at last, carrying glowing spores in the folds of their skin. The crater sinks, own petal tilts inward. Another breaks at its base and falls into the chamber. The spore column flickers as the airflow changes. For a moment, the mountain seems to breathe backward, pulling ash into itself. Then the central chamber collapses. The bloom folds down, stone petals, glowing tissues, empty spore sacs, and centuries of stored heat disappear into the crater. A black cloud rises where the flower stood. The sky dims, the ground shudders once, then settles. The volcano is no longer a mountain. It is a hollow. By evening, the plain is covered in warm ash. Small lights move through it, spores still alive, crawling toward cracks following heat through the ground. The ash grazers return cautiously. They step over the collapsed slope and feed in silence. Nothing on the mountain moves. Its life has left it, but far away, across the horizon, another cone shows a red seam. Then, another, then, 10. The bloom is not an isolated event. It is a planetary season, triggered when deep roots across the crust feel the same pressure wave moving through stone. One mountain opens, then a second, then a chain of distant volcanoes begins to answer. Night falls under a sky full of glowing ash. Across the black plains, dormant cones split at their rims. Some are young and small, their petals barely rising above the crater. Others are ancient giants opening flowers large enough to swallow lakes. Each bloom releases a different color of spore, depending on the minerals below: copper green, sulfur yellow, iron red, bone white. For days, the planet becomes a garden of dying mountains. No bloom repeats, no mountain survives whole. By the end of the season, the volcanic plains are changed. Old cones become basins filled with warm dust, new rootlets sink into cracks miles away. The ash animals migrate along the glowing fall lines, feeding on failed seeds and spreading living dust on their bodies. Mineral plants grow in temporary rings around collapsed craters, bright for a few weeks, then gone. Centuries from now, some of the spores will find the right darkness. They will enter young volcanic stone. They will send roots downward, thin as hair at first, then thick as rivers. They will drink heat from the planet's buried fires. They will build chambers no eye can see. The mountain will open once. Not to live longer, only to give its life away.